Right, hello. Another gameplay video because we recorded some, and I guess that's what I do is I record gameplay videos and then commentate and then post them. So this is of course Blue Steel. Weirdly, I don't really play many other decks. Versus Ruby Sapphire, which has come back to be quite the boogeyman of our deck of Blue Steel, and quite the worry. We're on the play for this game. But yeah, I'll just talk through sort of my thought process. Where I've gone one wrong, where I've gone right. Probably more wrong than right. But looking at the hand, you've got a lot of uninkable songs. Grab Your Swords is quite a dead card in this matchup. Via the Cannons is fairly got a little bit more useful, but it's still pretty bad. It does allow you to stop them doing the play tipper on two, then sing one jump ahead from the tippo, which is something they quite rely on doing. Well, they don't rely on it, but it's very powerful because then on the next turn there'll be Quill and Sing one jump ahead, so they get quite a lot out of it. So yeah, but most of the hands we just want bodies on the board. We want to just go over them with Whole New World. If they're not gonna get their Hiram and they're gonna starve themselves down to a few cards in hand, we will want to look at using the Hiram draw instead. But from the start, the hand's pretty good, so we get to watch me butcher it really, and see how that goes. So yeah, we start off. We look at what we got in there. Got quite a lot of duplicates. Tinkerbell would be nice to ink just because, as we don't have the quill, we can't quill ramp into her. So sort of, she's not really going to be as reliable a singer as the other ones are. And we've got the Simba, and we know they play a lot of items, so we'd rather just play the Simba over the Tinkerbell anywhere in that situation, just to get a body on the board, and especially with an ice block out now. Um, this is where I think I go fairly wrong with a little bit. We ink a Tala there. We know from our hand we don't have a Whole New World or Hiram, so we're actually quite restricted on draw. And Tala can sometimes bridge the gap between when you miss your draw, miss your Hiram, because in a sense she is a two-card draw. She'll draw two, and then you get to pick one, or you get to look at the top two. So you will cycle through two cards of your deck, and likely one of them will be Hiram or Whole New World, and if they're not, you'll be two cards closer to either of those cards. So yeah, we decided to go for the Smee instead of the Tippo on turn two, because on turn three we're going to use the Tippo if we don't find the Quill, and they opt to go for the Tippo. And with them inking the Quill, you get quite good hand knowledge that they have a Quill in hand because they just wouldn't ink it if they didn't have one. So yeah, we're going to start doing the ramping now and get the Tippo out and see what we decide and do wrong here. God, I'm so judgmental of my gameplay. So we get the Tippo out and decide to ink the other Tippo, which is the other draw ink option. Yeah, we have a little debate on that because it doesn't feel amazing. But then again, if we're just inking everything into hand from hand into the inkwell and we're not using it, that's also bad. And we ink the Tala here and fire the cannon. So I've walked through what I think is kind of wrong there actually. Sorry, I did watch through this and then just realised I don't like how I played it. Um, so we're looking like we really want to use that Simba, even though we don't have Quill to ramp into it. So that's a bit rough. We're going to have to do that not the next turn, but the following turn. We fire the cannons to Tippo so we can deny the one jump ahead line, which I think is pretty nice. Not They won't have it all the time. A lot of them are still playing low counts of one jump ahead, but that is something they would like to do if they have it in hand. Yeah, but we ink the Tala there, which I say we've got two Talas inked now. We only run two Talas in this list. So what we're really doing is hoping we set up a Singer and sing Whole New World. So we're hoping we just top deck it out of the next, 50 odd cards. One of them's a Whole New World. But they are ramping quite high. They've got the Tippo and Quill, so now they can Quill twice in the next turn and play a Be Prepared. That hand will be very starved at that point. But if they can recover with a Hiram, it's not that bad for them, and then they've reset the board entirely. Uh, so yeah, there's a lot of turns. It takes a little bit of a while, and we're just getting characters off the top, which is just not entirely what we want to see. And we might get to a point where we are top deck an uninkable. If it was a Whole New World, I'd love it, but if not, yeah, as I say, Tinker's just not going to do much in this matchup, and we'll just quest for three. The bodies on the board, and Tippo, that's why I quite like Tippo over what's it called? Playing one jump ahead. One jump ahead is, yeah, it will save your hand a little bit, but Tippo there again, he's got us ramp, he's got us one law for two ink. I think that's pretty good. They're putting it onto the Tippo. I assume the right player would actually put it on the Smee in case you find a brawl. But it doesn't really matter too much. They're just making sure yeah, and we have a little debate about it that a lot of Ruby Sapphire players forget to use their ice block before they break it with the Hiram. So yeah, we're kind of in this bad spot here. We're just basically hoping we top deck anything they can give us some gas here. We have an item set up. We've got so Hiram off the top would be great. A whole new world would be great off the top. Right now, we're just sort of waiting to see what we get, and hoping that just how slow and greedy RB is, it's going to affect them very much. I mean, the Hiram's very nice for them because it recovers draw, and we're just not going to have like a 3 action answer like Brawl or anything like that for them. So it's just going to sit on the board and get value. Quill is like a backup thing they want to break if they've got other items, but usually they draw into another item because they're very lucky. Yeah, and cycling through the deck as well. They've got a very good start, even being on the being on the draw. They've had quite a lot of cards they wanted. And what we'd really want to do here is basically whole new world and just interrupt, their perfect planning and sculpting of their hand. So yeah, off the top we draw another character, Cogsworth. So yeah, that's just not amazing. We're quite scared of Be Prepared now. They've most likely got some sort of board wipe. A lot of them are playing Sisu instead, but that'd still take 2 characters out. But we get the 2 lore there, to get the 3 lore, sorry. And we take out the Quill, which is quite nice with the Simba, but then again, Simba is quite a scary card for Medusa. We are in a spot where Medusa, Smee, or Simba is fairly beneficial for either of them. Simba only questing for one might make you question and go for the Smee instead because the lore from Smee is pretty nice. But still, I think the Ruby Sapphire player could see we're not in a great spot. That's not exactly what we want to be doing. It's just ink a character, play a character every turn, especially when they were ramping quite high. But maybe they were thinking a few lines and thinking about what they could do if they had 2 extra ink. So the Simba has offset that and put it down to only 1 ink a turn from the inkable card. So there's some value there. I mean, it's a good card. Like I say, if we got that on the play, if we Smee, Quill, Ramp, Simba, Sing Whole New World, I think you've been in a really good spot. You've stopped there, Quill, and you've set up a Singer and everything. But yeah, sort of the turns, like you say, they found another item. Might as well give it the buff to go to 2, why not? And they're just going to draw through cards and end up with quite a nice hand of cards. Um, so it's in kind of a rough spot, really. And if they haven't got some sort of board wipe, we could keep playing. Otherwise, we set back quite hard. If they were to reset the board and then find some answers, so even a Medusa is pretty tough because they've just took out a 6 cost 3/5, and we're down to board characters. We can't really deal with that. They've got a 4/4 that now can trade into things. We top deck a Quill. It's questionable what you want to do here. If you set it up, that's pretty good because if you wheel, you can wheel into a lot more things and just keep dumping it and try and like make it back. So we'll go to 11. So that Tippo and that Smee have just put in so much work, in my opinion. I mean, how much ink we've got, how much lore we've got from them, and then being 2 cost characters, it's really nice. I mean, we're halfway there with the lore from that, so that's just, I think, really should show how good getting characters on the board questing early on is. They don't really want to put too much effort into dealing with them. They haven't got um, they've got red removal, so it's more based around like we deal with everything or we don't. Be prepared and just like instant answers like Medusa. So they can take out some things just like really instantly and strong, but they haven't got like say a grab your swords or anything that can just go board wide and deal with it. They've just got expensive but very good removal. Um, so yeah, I think they can play a little bit slower. They're probably thinking we want to board wipe now or soon. They don't really mind because they are on the draw and they were expecting Smee to get some lore just from the matchup. That's how the matchup usually goes. Smee can harbour you quite a bit of lore before it's dealt with or dealt with efficiently. Even having more answers for Medusa, if we didn't have that Simba out, the Smee would have died and that would have been less lore for us. And that's quite brutal. And if they had the ice block as well, they'd been a complete board wipe. I mean, it is a complete board wipe. Yeah, we're in quite a rough spot. We're in a top deck spot. That's a bit of a lifeline there, but I think what we hoped for was a whole new world and then hardcaster, get a fresh hand, start dumping stuff, maybe find a Hiram, and basically hope that they're just going to have to play quite slowly. Yeah, so we put that in the ink world just because we need to be inking stuff, and you might as well use the quill to hide things. We kept the Tinkerbell just because it's a bigger body. Like I say, I don't want to overhype the card in this matchup, but I guess they have a 4/4 that's took 3 damage, so we will be killing that if we play it on the board. So it's not too bad. We kind of want to deal with that Sisu because 3 lore return now after a board wipe is pretty rough, and that's always been the rough part of Sisu compared to Be Prepared. It's quite a tempo swing that they just play it, then they'll pass turn to us because it will cost 7 ink. Whereas with Sisu, it's like everything dies, and then you've got a 5/4 that quests for 3 on board as well. So yeah, it can be pretty rough. But yeah, I mean these turns do take a little bit of thinking about. They play with so they're questing for 1, 2, questing for 5. Putting the Cuzco out, yeah, I mean it's probably the right play if looking at what cards you've got on hand. Diane's probably not as much of a threat right now, and we could have Hiram to draw for more cards as well. So yeah, it's not terrible. You might as well play wide. Our chances of winning the board back aren't that great. And yeah, still no Holy World, which is pretty rough. Quest to 12. I mean, we're only 8 off. Kind of a rough spot to be in, but you know, here we go. All we're really going to try and do then is just set up some singers to try and try and hopefully top deck that whole new world and just get some gas and keep going. So if we top deck the whole new world here, keep the Hiram because instead of the Cogsworth, because if they just Cogsworth's not going to do much right now, and if they do another Sisu, it's even worse. But Hiram we could keep in hand, so if this one's dealt with and we top deck another item, we've got a bit of gas to keep the fight going really. But yeah, we want to sort of just find that whole new world, wheel into it, find Dime, try and race them really. They have a lot of lore on board, but what they'll try and do is react to our board, so they won't be putting as much effort into their win condition. Which is, yeah, like I say, there's some mistakes here I think I made where it could have gone better. Like I say, the Tala would have shifted down 2 cards, even if we didn't want either of those 2 cards that we looked at from the Tala, it would have been 2 cards closer to a card we would have wanted. And that the Hiram's just got them so much work really. It's been nothing but uh, useful, and that's where the whole new world's quite good because if you're just making people discard a hand and drawing 7 new, it doesn't really matter if they have a Hiram draw on the board as much because, well, they're resetting their hand every few turns. And that's sort of where I find this matchup goes on the play and on the draw. You have 2 lines really to play. It's either watch them ramp. If they miss Hiram, they'll be playing 1 card a turn. If they hit Hiram, you can just wheel and just basically go high roll over them. And the fact that you won't win the late game, but you might just win by the sort of tempo that you're swinging with of just wheel, play stuff, get dime set up. When the Tamatoa comes down, it's a real rough spot in the matchup. It drops quite significantly. We do have Let It Go. We have similar removal to them. I'd prefer the big dragon that they use, but still not bad. And as I said, we're only hunting for 8 lore here. So if we were to find a dime, tap the bell, quest, we might get 8, we get 4 from that. Sorry, we go to 16, and then we'd quest with the Hiram off the top. That's just not what we really want to be seeing here. But we can put some work in with 2 Hirams really. Yeah. Oy. But if we were to use the Tala to draw into them, we'd have just been in a much better spot. So really, yeah, it's good to get these plays out and good to watch them back in practice. We try and do some damage control here, really, and that's mainly for their lore. So they just quested again. Sorry, they went to 10, I believe. Would have been Medusa. No, they would have went higher. Sorry. They've got a lot of lore. I think it's about 11. Yeah, it would have been that one. So 5, 6, 7, yeah, 11 or 12. But yeah, as you can see, they're running away with the lore, and we're going to get to a point where it's just going to be big increments of lore that will finish it out anyway. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But trying to get some damage control. Play a Hiram on board just for something that can be on the board. It can quest, it can sing Zeus, it can do whatever. I think at that point we were quite flustered and we thought we could take it out with how much damage we'd done to it, but it only had 3 on it, so 1 hero hitting, that's just not going to be enough. And yeah, we just ink hoping we top deck that wheel really, because at this point we can wheel and then we can play a few cards as well. Maybe wheel and play a Let It Go, just a tempo swing back, or just to slow down their progression. But once the Tamatoa is out, it's pretty rough. It's a pretty rough spot to be in. But two Hirams, like I say, bodies on the boards. What else can they do? If we get the items, we get one quests. We get another item, we have 1 quests. That's 2 lore, as well as 4 cards drawn. So yeah, just putting it out there, it's better there. And we couldn't even ink it because we inked the other one. They can play fairly slowly. They do know that there is a bomb of if we top deck a wheel, we're gonna be playing it. So they need to work towards doing their win con as well. But they can take it fairly slowly. We've got no cards in hand. We're not in an amazing spot here. But yeah, they're gonna have to find an answer for that Tinkerbell, because they don't want it. They don't think they mind as much as if we hardcast Whole New World, but if we sing it, it's pretty rough for them because we have that whole pile of ink there to play with on the turn. Which ramping hasn't been done that well, but we have used a Tippo and a Quill, so we have gained some ramp, and the match has been going for long enough that an Inca turn does add up, as well as the couple bits of ramp that we managed to achieve. But still, yeah, it's going to be a rough one with the Kuzcos and stuff like that. What you want to really hope to do is wheel a Kuzco out of their hand or watch them ink a Kuzco or lose one of them, and then I'd say you play with a fair bit more confidence that um, they won't have. Look at that board wipe. That's just the red late game removal, which is where we struggle. We've got the very good steel removal for a lot of matchups, but our steel removal is just not really important here. So that's another little lifeline there, and we're going to get one extra law, which is great. But with that Tamatar, we are hoping for the let it go here, just to slow it down completely. As I believe actually the Tamatar has 6 health on it, so we might even fire the cannons. Um, so yeah, I think as well what you want to do here, and this is the play that's going through my head, is that we're counting out how much they could achieve in one turn, achieve with the dime as well, and thinking if we play it slowly, because that Hiram has pretty much not died since it was played, it's just been getting law, and we've not really had a clean answer for it, no Zeus or anything like that. We might just be thinking, yep, all right, cool, we'll just play answer my Tamatoa or I win the game. So that's sort of the spot we've got ourselves in. And I'll admit there's been quite a lot of card draw now and no Holy World, which is pretty rough in this matchup when it's quite a key element to just go over them and just keep wheeling and keep putting things into Inkwell, stop their Quill if you can. But yeah, right now we've just basically been setting up a hey, answer my board and I'll give you the game if you can answer it. If not, I win the game situation, which is yeah, just the way it goes sort of sometimes in the matchups. I believe the Tamato was on 6 health. I think it was one of them dice that has or it could be the other way around. I think it just has 1 on it. Sorry. Yeah, it wouldn't have 6 on it. No, it would. Sorry. Yeah, it hit into a who's he? What's it? It's either 6 or 5, but I can't remember. But I think the best play to do here is just set up a board state where it's hey, answer my Tamato or I lose, because playing it slowly when they're at this much lore and they are slowly gaining 2 lore every turn, it's just sort of a rough spot to be in. So I think it's close it out as much as you can, or yeah, we can't really control it. Their hand size is huge. Going over the wheel is going to be rough now because we'll just wheel them into so much stuff. And they sing the Be Prepared, and that usually means they have a follow-up Tamatoa to do that. Um, they just gained 2 lore from the questing as well. Yeah, and it's just it's like you say, you've got a ramp card and a early steel removal card. So really, the deck it just isn't made for this matchup too much. Blue steel is very good at its mid-range control, whereas red blue just dominates the late game, and that's just how it's going to be. Um, you could of course edit the list quite a bit more and go for Ariel and Pete, which is a very tough spot for them to be in as they can't remove the Ariel in any way, and it's going to gain lore. And if you were to Pete again, you might even be able to hold it out. If you were to get the dime set up, that's 10 lore. So yeah, there's really a way to get this matchup a little bit more in your favoured. And I'd say even Aerial Pete isn't bad into other decks. Into Ruby Amethyst is good as well. But yeah, they're just sort of locking in their win here at this point. If we had to let it go off the top and a whole new world or something like that, we can maybe slow them down. Maybe they've bottom decked quite a few Tamatoas and they know they haven't got much questing power to finish it out. Maybe the bottom decked some um, rise of what's it? Sorry, some dimes as well. But yeah, we're in a real rough spot here where it's basically just try and stall it out for as long as we can. Maybe find another Tamatoa. Maybe maybe find that let it go finally, and hope that hand is just no characters and just full of quite bricked stuff. But with a hand size like that, this late in the game with Ruby Sapphire, it's unlikely that's the case. So we're really just playing with like a 5% win chance of them having an utterly bricked hand, which is just very unlikely. Even if they have the dime as well, quest play the dime out, quest for the Tamatoa, get an item back, and just keep going for it. Yeah, once they get the items, it's quite GG. We just don't have that big dragon. We don't have that board wipe. Their deck's sort of built in with quite a few answers for the board and for bigger characters. But there you go. That's sort of quite a locked in now at this point. And if they get that quest off, they'll get an item back, and it's GG. Yeah, it should be me conceding right there. There we go. There we go. We locked in the loss. Yeah, so that's just sort of how it goes. I think there's a lot of mistakes in there that we can learn from, sort of like the use of the Tala wasn't very good when she's actually quite a good scrying card. She's sort of very much your backup if you don't get the Hiram, because she is in a sense will draw on the play two cards and let you pick one of them. So that will cycle through two cards in your deck, which is pretty nice. But yeah, I still think that's something that's worth watching, and there's a little bit to learn from it. Bye.